Hello and welcome to the second part of the first part of this particular segment, that was the GS paper 1. We won't call it mains. GS paper 1 topic breakdown. So earlier I completed art and culture, ancient history, medieval history and modern one, freedom struggle as well. Now we will talk about the next part, that is the post-independence India. If you haven't seen the first one, go and watch it. Then you will find it as a continuation. Okay. So nation building in post-independence India is important. Then here only, what are the partitions aftermath? Integration of princely states, the linguistic regionalism in India, how did it emerge? How did it lead to the creation of the Andhra state? The reorganization of states, because once the Andhra was created, other states were also saying, give us state based on language, give us another state. Issue of the official language. This is more important from the perspective of mains examination. How did the tribals got consolidation and the regional aspiration of different states having their own flag, their own constitution, how it was curbed as in a positive sense, don't take it negatively, how they were given more and more discounts so that they can feel more integrated like that. Foreign policy here, non-aligned movement, what is the importance of it? The Panchsheel. Wars with Pakistan and China, how, because this created a lot of issues that are still going on. Nuclear policy, how is India's nuclear policy working? Now, the next part is economy. Here we have the planned development. How did it work? The Green Revolution. Here we are talking from the perspective of post-Indian independence, post the independence era. Green Revolution, Operation Flood and cooperatives, agrarian and land reforms, then industrial reforms, liberalization, privatization and globalization reforms. In polity, the era of one party dominance, that was the INC, later on how the other parties cropped up, emergence of them, the emergency crises, rise of regional parties and coalition, how India got into the coalition era as well. Now in social we have popular movements. For communalism it is important to understand regionalism. For the perspective of communalism it is important to understand the history, freedom struggle and then communalism. Indian women since independence, this is very important. Oftentimes I have seen aspirants ignoring this part. Issue of women and evolution of women movement, Naxalism or Maoism. Post-independence policy of science and technology. India's policy in the field of science and technology, impact of economic reform and on the science and technology in India. This is also important, more importantly from the perspective of mains. Here again, world history, important from the perspective of mains, in which beginning of the modern world, Renaissance, discovery of sea routes, Reformation, counter-reformation, Industrial Revolution, European nations settle North America, rise of slave trade. Apart from that, you will find 1 to 2 questions generally from the perspective of world history. American War of Independence, here we have foundation of American colonies, independence of USA, American Revolutionary War, US Civil War, impact of Civil War, global impact of US Civil War, and impact of India. And what was the impact of the American Revolution as a whole? This is the mains part. Also, rise of capitalism, colonialism and imperialism. And colonialism, age of imperialism, how did it work? How did imperialism in Asia occur? And what was the analysis? That this can go from economic perspective, agricultural, socio-cultural, everything. And also World War I, the causes of it, the scope and course, how did Russian Revolution take place, major events in the pre-revolution era in Russia, causes and course of revolution, what were the consequences, what was the aftermath of the war and post then in Russia. And again the second one, war between two wars, this is also important, end of the war and peace treaties are important. Consequences of war and League of Nations, which has gloriously failed to, keep peace. European nations after the war, how fascism and Nazism rise to prominence, the Great Depression, how did Soviet Union become Soviet Union, nationalist movement in Asia and Africa and US as a strong power. Moving ahead, now let's talk about World War III, in which fascist aggression and response of the Western democracies, the outbreak, threats of the war and US's entry into the war. Apart from that, global nature of the war, the Holocaust and resistance movement, after effects of the war. Moving ahead, decolonization and withdrawal also of the national boundaries. Europe after World War II, Cold War, rise of Asia and Africa, how they rose. Development in West Asia, North Africa. Now this is also important from the perspective of international relations. Spread of communalism, Korean, Vietnam and Cuban crises, and the collapse of the Soviet Union. Moving ahead, concept and types of social impact of political philosophy, how they are working. Some nations are communist, some are capitalist, and some are socialist. So these three ideologies. Break. Now we talk about Indian society, very important. Here, salient features of Indian society and the diversity of India, in which there are features of Indian society. What is the diversity in which we have to see caste, linguism, social, religious, race, tribe, ethnic, and cultural aspects of it. What is the challenge? Because this is a very favorite question of mains examination. The challenge is caused by this diversity in India. Unity, pluralism, and unity in diversity. Inequality that is existing and exclusion. How does the family system work? And examples of above are important. Role of women and women organization. Here, women's organization in Indian history that we can see from the modern world, modern India. Types of women organization, what is the level of penetration? In 19th century, what were the social reform movements and early women organization, in which agrarian struggle and revolt is there, and participation in freedom struggle. Important prominent personalities who participated in the freedom struggle. And we have examples as well for those organizations. The problems which are faced by them, and it is a large vocal role possible and ways to achieve the same. Role of self-help groups, microfinance institutions are also there. This is important from the perspective of mains examination. Then we have population and associated issues, basic demography of India, population trend. Now this is important from pre and mains both. Population trend in India and implication. What are the causes and side effects of it? Challenges in population. This is going to be very important because population bill has been in the news for quite some time now. So important it is. Changing age structure of Indian population. The demographic dividend, it is a boon or bane for India, because if you do not capitalize on it, it is a bane, and if you do, it is a boon. Population aging in India, what is the total fertility rate and everything, you have to keep that fact in mind. India's population policy and initiatives. Poverty and development issue, more important, this is developmental in nature, so important for mains. Concept of development and poverty, types of poverty. And again, types of poverty can be understood from the perspective of both pre and mains. Measure of poverty, poverty line, pre and mains both. Causes of poverty, poverty as a social problem, socio-economic spread of poverty for mains basically. Consequences of it, inequality, continuation of vicious cycle, because poverty is a vicious cycle. If you are poor, you do not have resources to take yourself out of that poverty, your children will be poor, and so on and so forth. Who is the worst affected by poverty? Okay, moving ahead, problem of rising urban poverty. Then poverty elevation initiatives important for pre and mains both. Policy shift from trickle-down economics to inclusive or poor pro-development to reduce poverty. Relation between poverty reduction and development. What is the relation between them? Okay, so indexes can also be cited. Urbanization, their problems and remedies. Here we have urbanization trend in India and their implication, because of course the dimension of demography and social will both be taken. Then we have factors which are driving urbanization. Why is urbanization happening this way? What is the reason? Of course that is important. State of service delivery and challenges. Problems, what are there in urban areas? Social consequences of urbanization. Impact on rural areas. Urban planning and role of ULBs and reforms which are required, or government initiatives that have been undertaken so far. And what are the problems of slums? We also had covered in our in-depth series the Dharavi redevelopment project. That is very important from this perspective. Moving ahead now, effects of globalization on Indian society. It could be good or bad or both. Understanding globalization, its different dimension, its impact in different areas. Globalization and culture, in which we have homogenization and glocalization. Glocalization is a term from global plus local, so glocalization. Factors which are driving it and the impacts of it in India. And does globalization cause poverty? This is also a very important question that India has been asking. The social empowerment part, social disadvantaged groups, who are they? What is the concept of social empowerment? Have you understood it or not? This is important from mains perspective. Dimension of social empowerment. Why do we need it? Are there any government initiatives? These are the schemes and policies which are important from the perspective of pre and mains both. Empowerment and reality, and what is the experience of India? Here we have communalism. The characteristics of it. What are the features of communalism? Why communalism is known as communalism? What are the symptoms of it? In India, that is in current and the past as well. Causes of it, consequences of it, how to measure and control it, as well as eradicate it. Communalism is never good. Secularism as an antidote to communalism. Regionalism, what is region? And the emotion that is rising from the region is regionalism. What is that? What are the different forms of it? How is it working in India? Causes of it, concept of sons of the soil. Whenever you see reservation for the origin or native of that region in that particular state only, that is one of the examples of sons of the soils, that we will provide help to only those who were born here. And this is not very good because we need an integrated India. So sons of the soil theory, what are the benefits as well as the disadvantage? Consequences of regionalism, federalism and regionalism, and role of regional parties, good and bad. Measure to contain regionalism in the international sphere if it is happening anywhere. We have secularism, in which the concept of it, the general concept, and what is India's definition of secularism. And nature and practices of secularism in India. Uniform Civil Code, this is Article 44 of the DPSP, which is very much in the news, so do read about it. Challenges which are faced by secularism in India, and measures to make India truly secular, because this is one of our aspirations. World and Indian geography, very, very, very important from the perspective of both prelims and mains. Salient features of world's physical geography, in which geomorphology is there. In geomorphology, we have evolution and origin of Earth, interior of Earth, crust, mantle, core, everything. Distribution of continents and oceans, and plate tectonic theory. Okay. Distribution of earthquakes and volcanoes. Recently, Mauna Loa erupted. We covered that in our one of the segments. Do see it. Rock and rock cycle. Geomorphic process, in which we have both endogenic and exogenic landforms and their evolution, and the geological time scale is important. Then we have oceanography, in which hydrological cycle, sea floor spreading concept, which is of course the concept related to plate tectonics, ocean floor configuration, temperature and salinity, and movement of ocean, in which wave, tides and currents are important. In climatology, we have Earth's atmosphere, what is the composition, which gas is what percent, and structure of it, solar radiation, heat budget and temperature, what is insolation and etc. Atmospheric circulation and weather system, which is impacting monsoon in India, and world climate, the examples, Mediterranean climate, China type climate, every sort of climate. Soil geography, here we have soil and soil contents, how does soil form, and forming factors, what are the types of soils, the examples, laterite soil, black soil, soil erosion and conversion. Also, distribution of key natural resources across the world are important, including Indian subcontinent as well, and types of resources. How did we get it? That means what were the basis of origin? Ownership and exhaustibility, these mineral resources. Land resources, we have land utilization, land use pattern, and land degradation and conservation. This is important from the perspective of mains, basically. Here we have forest resources, which is important from the perspective of both prelims and mains. Types and distribution, in which we have grassland and forest. Causes of depletion and how we conserve forest. In water resources, we have marine and freshwater, water scarcity and need for conservation. So, Har Ghar Ganga Jal, which was scheme of the Bihar government, has been taken care of in one of our series. Do watch it. Integrated water resource management. Also, in agriculture resources, which is important from the perspective of both prelims and mains. Types of farming, cropping patterns, contribution to economy and empowerment, and food security as well. Also, in mineral and energy sources, important for both pre and mains, both. Classification of minerals in ferrous, binary classification, ferrous and non-ferrous, occurrence of it, conservation of it, classification of energy sources, Are they conventional? That means they are traditional, have been getting used since a long period of time. Non-conventional, a little different. Occurrence of energy resources and conservation of it. So these are very important for you to study. Then we have what are the factors which are responsible for primary, secondary, tertiary sectors in various parts of the world, including India. Here we have location and distribution of industries on the basis of raw material, labor, market capital. Important for means basically land, grants and financial incentives, power, transport, water and communication. Means again. Distribution of major industry, iron and steel, cotton textile, agglomeration of footloose industry. Both for pre and mains. Important geophysical phenomenon, very important from both the perspective of pre and mains. Tsunami, volcanic activity, cyclone, earthquake, geographical features and their location changes in critical geographical feature, and the flora and fauna and side effects of it. Here we have earthquake. Why does the earth shake? What are the waves, different type of waves? What is the shadow zone? How many types of earthquakes are there? How do we measure earthquake and the effects of it? For tsunami, what causes tsunami and the effects of it? How can we minimize the impacts of tsunami? For volcanoes, the different types of volcanoes, composite, shield. What causes volcanism? What are the volcanic reforms? Landforms, sorry. Intrusive volcanic landforms, extrusive ones and distribution specifically among the Pacific Ring of Fire. What are tropical cyclones and anticyclones? And extratropical cyclones, how they are different. Factors which cause critical changes in critical geographical features. Example of changing geographical features like melting of ice sheets, desertification, impacts of changing geographical features, how it is impacting us. Physical geography of India, very important, in which physiogeography of India, how many different divisions are there. The drainage system, especially here we are talking about the rivers, the branches, everything. What is the climate of India and soils that are found in India? Plus what is the natural vegetation that is found here. In human geography, we have demography, urbanization and census, which is important from the perspective of prelims and mains both. In economic geography, we have agriculture, mineral resource in India. This is all I'm talking about India. Energy resource, industry, transport as well as communication for both pre and mains. And that is it. So we have covered everything about GS paper 1, the important topics that I have divided. I will come up with more such episodes for different papers. So that is it. Thank you so much for watching and stay updated.